Even if it's counting down, it's recording.
It has been recording?
I don't know for how long. Just the walrus jumping up the beach.
Yeah. Awkward. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood Podcast. And we have a special guest. Back with us is Richard Trimmer, the man behind the movement.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what they called you.
Yeah.
The man behind the movement. The man behind the Revitalized Womanhood movement. That sounds so weird. Oh, Rick does not love it when I force him to record episodes with me, but he gets forced to because that's part of his job as being a good husband.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
To show up with me when I need it.
Yeah, I've been pretty bad lately. Honestly.
About what?
Not recording with you. You've been asking for a while. So.
Oh, I have. I've been trying to record this episode, so I don't want it to feel like it's forced. I've been trying to record this episode since my 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, a couple months.
I wanted to hear your point of view, and that might be a good place to start. This episode's actually about setting life goals as a team versus individually, which is actually perfect because it hits at a time in our life when this is really important for us, and we're actually going through this right now. So it's perfect timing. However, let's start.
Which it wouldn't have been 2 months ago.
No.
Because it has changed in the last 30 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it actually is good we waited.
Oh, yeah, we'll say that. It actually is good we waited, not that we could have just recorded another episode.
Yeah, I knew it would be better to wait. So that's why I did. It wasn't...
I have a feeling something big is going to happen in the next 2 months.
Felt like we were forcing it. So.
Well, I wanted to record with you because we hit the 1-year anniversary of Revitalized Womanhood in July. We were in Alaska, which was really great. We were in Alaska with Kelly and Matt, our friends who were with us when Revitalized Womanhood was started.
Yeah, named and
the concept.
Before it even, the concept was started, not even the business.
Yeah, the business wasn't, the end
months.
of July, but the actual sisterhood didn't start till October. The business started in July. What did we think when we were getting started in July in Alaska? What were kind of our thoughts? And it's okay. Like, you guys, I am very comfortable with my husband being very truthful and very honest with me. Sometimes it gets him in trouble, but usually...
Most of the time.
I'm pretty good about not getting too defensive.
Yeah,
sometimes things hit a little too close to home, and that's usually a sign of if someone gets pretty defensive, it's because something hit a little too close to home.
Yeah, with us, we both got pretty thick skin, so if you get offended, I probably did go too far.
Yeah. So what do you think? When we were doing this, think back 1 year ago from July, so our Alaska trip when Revitalized Womanhood was born.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking about?
So just a heads up for everybody. I did not know what this episode was about at all, right? You told me 6 minutes ago, right?
Yeah.
I says, what are we even talking about? It's not like we planned this or anything. So I don't have any, any kind of thought out words of wisdom here, but
it's not scripted.
Yeah, it's not scripted. Yeah. So 1 year ago, what did I think specifically Revitalized Womanhood?
Well, because I want to ask you about the concept of the business, of the mission, what your thoughts were behind that, because you're a man. So it is really hard to conceptualize a woman's community and a woman's movement. But for you as a man, what were you thinking that this would be?
Well, I think it's different for me because I have bought, sold, started, over a dozen companies now.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was when I met with Ryan and was talking to him about it, our plans were, finances and how much is it going to cost and what equipment do we need? And, I wanted you to have something that would, I just knew you were a stay-at-home mom, which you loved and enjoy, but you could do something more. And I wanted to give you something more that wasn't, just go get a job. I thought this was something you'd be passionate about, which you are. And so for my thoughts, it was, can I afford this? How much will it be? What's it going to pull away from our family time? you as a mother. Those are all my concerns. Social media, as you know, I'm nervous of it. People get sucked into that black hole and start scrolling, and it consumes them. And so my concerns were very, what's the word? I'm just sure very different than yours. Yours were probably, how am I going to grow the community? What's my messaging going to be? What am I going to name it? Mine was, what's the monthly budget? How are we going to market from a business standpoint? And honestly, when we first started it, we had big expectations, even with Ryan Mickler, who's a partner of ours. Order of Man were his sister company. When we were talking about it, we thought that the world needed this and it was going to just explode. And I still believe the world needs it. But it hasn't exploded. And, I'm as guilty after being involved for 12 months with this and going through my own struggles, with it and processing it and all the things, because it is different. It's obviously you bring something into your relationship that is going to take some of your time and your attention. It's going to affect us one way or another. And so there's been a lot of, processing and understanding all that. And so, yeah, it's, in the beginning, I thought it was going to go left. It went right. A year later, I thought it was going to go up. It went down. It's like not necessarily down. I thought it was going to go down. It went up.
What do you mean, though? What did you think was going to go right? It went left. What did you think?
So in the beginning, I thought, me and Ryan said it'll cost, $5,000. We thought that right out of the gate with his community of Order of Man, that, there would be a few hundred women, that would sign up just from the wives of his members. We thought you'd have a big base immediately. And, it ended up going 5 or 6 times over budget. We thought it would take, a couple months. It's been 12 and it's still not to where we, thought it would be.
Yeah, we are in the 1 year month exactly of the sisterhood.
Yeah. So, it's funny because I've started enough businesses, and when you start a business, you're optimistic. You're excited. You always underestimate what it's going to cost. You underestimate your time. You underestimate everything, and you overestimate how successful you're going to be. You overestimate, that people are, I've started clothing lines, and you think, I love this. Yeah, Undaunted. Yeah, we're wearing it. Yeah. Yeah. They sent us a bunch of stuff out to wear. So, what was I saying?
As a business, you think you're optimistic,
yeah, so you're excited, there's this excitement. And when I started this clothing line, I remember thinking, it's we're going to give back to American charities, to first responders, to military. It's, the slogan is wear what matters. It's not some celebrity, nothing against a lot of celebrities, but some of them just do nothing and have, no depth. And so I thought this is going to be crazy. And then you launch it and, like even your family doesn't buy a shirt, or your cousins, and you're like, what is wrong? And you're just confused, and
don't you see the message? Don't you see the...
But it's your journey. Yeah. It's your,
but that's your internal struggle is, don't you see what I see?
Yeah. Now I'm guilty of it. I have cousins and sisters and friends and brothers that start businesses, and I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's probably nice, but I don't need to go buy a $30 shirt. And I'm not trying to offend them. It's just, I don't have that conviction. It's like, being in business for 10 years, when I was growing my first business, United Wood, I would go in for 80 hours a week, 84 hours a week, grinding, missing Christmas. My employees weren't there with me, because I knew what it was. I was, the one that started it.
Yeah.
Am I touching my microphone? Yep. And so, that's just a hard thing for people to realize. When you start a business, people aren't going to just line up at the door and buy your cakes or, ask you to mow their lawn. You got to go grind and earn it.
Yeah.
And this was just another great example of that. And I don't shy away from that. I honestly, it's a weird thing, but when it's harder than you thought and more money than you thought, that separates the competition. You know, if this would have been that easy and we would have just had 300 members and it would have cost $5,000 and it would have taken 2 months. One, you don't appreciate it as much. You don't, you didn't have the late nights crying like you have and, feeling like you should quit and all the things that, a person should go through. I really think you should go through, because I know that if you keep going, it will be successful and you will appreciate it that much more, So yeah, in the beginning, the goals were high, the expectations were high, and they still are. They still are. That's the difference is, we're still gonna, you're still gonna do everything that I believe that you've planned on.
And more.
And more. And, I'm still here, writing the checks. And, and I believe in it. I do believe in it. There's this is a tangent, but there's a culture out there where you got to change the script, and including me, I'm a guy who controls our money in our marriage. You asked me a year ago, you said I would have came up to you and said, hey, there's this girl that is going to charge $100 a month for me to join and it's going to help me. Would I have said yes? Probably not with that sentence, but with some testimonials that I've heard and, a little more information, I think I would have gambled on it. I mean, why not? If it's something important to you, I believe, I don't know. I am very tight with money. I'm very frugal. But after being in it a year, you obviously you're not in it, you own it and run it. It's been a great thing. Our marriage is, we're 17 years into this thing and although we're traveling and on the road for the last 3 months, we've been together 24/7.
Phew. With 3 little boys.
3 little boys in the other room that are told to be quiet.
Going
we're recording.
Straight from a car to an apartment.
Road tripping. Yep. We stay in little condos and Airbnbs. They're not real big. We have a budget. So we're packed in and, we have our moments, even now. So, but I think what the sisterhood has done is it's allowed us to communicate better. I know you've interviewed a lot of great women and, and read a lot of books. I don't know that you read a, nonfiction book in the first 16 years of our marriage.
I didn't. I did not.
And now you're reading, a couple of months.
Stephen Covey. I think that is probably the only one I've ever read.
And so you're getting all this information and you're processing it and, it's turned into, a better, deeper marriage, better love life, a better mother, better friend. And so, I see that with you and I see that with the handful of girls that are following you that put in the time. You got to put in the time. It's like a gym membership. You can buy a gym membership. Doesn't mean you're going to have a 6-pack.
Yeah.
So the women who have gone in and have put in the work and the effort, it's amazing to see. And so, that's really long.
Good stuff.
Answer.
Babe.
So
good stuff. Well, I would have cut you off if it would have gone into our Ask Me Anything. We're going to record an Ask Me Anything. A lot of the women have some great questions for Rick and for myself, but it'll be a really fun episode. And I think there are some questions that will get even deeper to what you were just talking about and the year of leading the Revitalized Sisterhood. So we'll get into that.
Yeah, I think I think the thing that with goals is most people, 9 out of 10, 99 out of 100 people set a goal and just think it's going to be achieved because they wrote it down or they,
don't even write it down.
Yeah, or they want it to,
guy.
What have I done my whole life?
Wrote it down.
I am like a Nazi on writing.
Make a list.
And you can ask anybody that works for me, write it down, and then cross it off. Yeah, I just think, this is going to be a long road. It's going to be a lot of effort, but, most people just want their goals to just happen. And that's not how it works out. So anyway, yeah. What's next?
What's interesting is I wasn't one of those people that, I never wrote it down. I've never written down a goal before the sisterhood. I've never written anything down, even when we were setting some big goals for ourselves when we lost everything in the recession. but I have my own way of doing it. And I'm trying to think back of how I did that, because I managed, cleaned, ran 8 vacation rentals, all with my kids, taking them in tow, doing all the laundry, doing all the cleanings, managing all the VRBO, and I had goals. We had to remodel them when we first bought them. We had to remodel them, and he would give me a budget like $5,000, which sounds like a lot, but really it's not. If you've ever decorated, had to buy new furniture, had to gut a space and start over.
But we did it.
But I'm saying, so I did do it. So I do have my own way of doing it, but I do see how I have like honed in on taking what you say as a business owner into what I'm doing. Like I have my own private coach. Sometimes I'm like, but again, that's one of those defensive things where you hit too close to home. You hit a nerve I know I'm not doing it the right way or something. Anyway, so I think that has really helped me in this past year of doing this. See the difference between, if I do this, what he's been saying, do this, it makes this difference.
Well, and like you said, how you said, I think the point you were making was, I'm, 40, what are you?
41.
41 years old. I have done great in life, and I haven't been writing stuff down, how did I do it before? I think is kind of what you're saying. And how are you successful running these, know?
Yeah.
And I look at that and I think about employees. Obviously I was getting my pilot's license, my private pilot license, just to go fly around. And you had to have a checklist. I didn't show up to the plane and just try to remember what I needed to do to fly that day. They gave you a checklist and you had to check it off, and go through everything that I've ever seen. Imagine that your pilot, you're getting on a flight to Hawaii and your pilot shows up and he's like, there's 40 things to check out on I don't even know, on a commercial airplane, whatever, but 40 things on a little Cessna. He probably can remember 37 of them. He probably can get it into the air and fly 9 out of 10 times. But on that 10th time, he's going to forget to have checked the fuel gauge. He's going to forget to have checked, the tires, because he got busy. So you can still get through life without a list. But with a list, you get all 40. And that's the key. I think that's what separates the successful from the non-successful ones. I have a great memory, that. I have a really good memory, thankfully. But I can't remember everything. I just can't. And so I think when you write it down, for me, it's not even just that it makes it more real or anything like that. It's that it helps me remember all of it. Not 38, not 39. You want your pilot to remember everything. And so I really highly encourage people to write down their goals. I think it's key, short-term and long-term. They're obviously going to change. They're going to adapt. Things are going to move. You're going to, think you're going this way, but then you just adjust it. If you say, hey, this is going to take me 2 years to pay this credit card off. And at 2 years, you're not quite there, but hopefully you're further, say it's 10 grand and you paid it down to 4. Hey, that's better than nothing.
Yeah.
And then you regroup and you say, okay, why did the math not work out? Why did I only pay 6? What's real? I had a baby. My car broke down. Shit happens, right?
That's why when we do goals in the sisterhood, we track it. We have markers.
100%.
Okay, is this working at 30 days? What has worked? What hasn't worked?
Yeah.
Fix it.
Some you'll get right.
It. Yeah.
Some you'll get done in 4 days. Some will take 38 days.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got them done and you check it off and you move on and then you add. That's one thing is, my goal sheet isn't, I have my goals planned out 10 years in advance. After 9 years, or after 1 year goes up, that 10-year goal is a year closer, but then I write a new goal for 10 years. I always want to constantly be improving and changing and growing, and everybody should. So your goals are going to adapt and change with outside circumstances and influences, and then also personal preferences. You may want money, and then, you get a cancer diagnosis and it's like, oh, I don't have 10 years to go.
I don't care about money anymore.
I don't care about money. I'm going to change that 10-year goal to a 1-year goal. And I'm going to go see, the flowers in the Netherlands, So they can be fluid, but it is proven that those who write down their goals, think about them, do the math. That's one thing I think people don't do. I did some coaching for 8 guys this summer, and a lot of guys, just underestimate or overestimate. Some guys say, "Oh, I'll pay off that $500 credit card in 2 years." I'm like, "All right, let's do the math. What do you make? What's your budget? What's your monthly expenses? Hey, you could pay this off in 3 months.
Right.
Whoa!" Or, "Hey, I've got a $10,000 credit card. I'm going to pay that off in a month." And it's like, where? How?
Yeah.
So do the math. You know that with me. Math is king.
Yes. Well, that gets me to my next question is, where do you think, or how do you think a best way, I should say to set life goals with your partner? Because you can have your own personal goals, but how do you even begin to set life goals with a partner, with someone you've got to now incorporate a different person to this plan that has control over some of the effort you're making?
Well, first of all, I think it happens before you're married.
Yeah.
That is key, and I know you're spending a lot of time with the women in your community that are not married yet. I think a lot of us think a girl's cute, or she's nice to us, and so you just marry her. We have 3 little boys outside the door here, hanging out, and we talk to them all the time about make sure you have the fundamentals in place. Are you the same religion or the same beliefs? Do you want kids or not want kids? Do you want a stay-at-home mom or not a stay-at-home mom? Do you want, you know, just anything that can affect your long-term goals in a huge way? You marry somebody thinking, I'm going to change them. They don't want kids now, but I'll change them. Good luck. Hopefully you can, but if you don't, then that's going to be a pretty hard marriage and maybe end up in divorce. So, first I would say, have the conversations before, if you can. If you're already married, I think the biggest thing that I've learned with setting goals with a spouse, in the beginning, I'm obviously a dominant personality. And
They think I am too.
You are. Just, I'm a little more dominant, I guess, with you, but, I think in the beginning, I just kind of steamrolled you. I just kind of said, this is what we're doing. I mean, we have all the same values. I knew you wanted to be a mother more than anything. That was your number one goal. You wanted to be a stay-at-home mom.
And not even steamrolled. I would say I was aligned.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. We had the same fundamentals. So I wasn't like changing your fundamentals.
You're right.
But then I would be like, we're going to buy this house or we're going to do that, and again, you just trusted me. I think that, you always tell me that you trust me, even now, if you trust that your spouse is making the best decisions, then that makes it easier. So that was, I think, a huge, huge benefit in us being able to, create, our wealth and our freedom, is that you trusted me, and I did make mistakes. We lost everything. Everybody knows the story. In the recession, I made huge mistakes, and instead of throwing it in my face or, not letting me continue, you said, hey,
for leaving you.
Yeah. You said, get back up, dust yourself off, put the bat on your shoulder and get ready to swing again. I believe in you. And so, but what I would do in the beginning was I would go to you and say, a lot of our fights were about money. I think most marriages are about money, and I would go to you and say, you are bad with money. You are doing this wrong. And I read a book, I don't know what it was, that said, don't go to your wife and say you, say we, or I, me. And I remember where we were. We were in my grandparents' basement. I remember going to you, we'd lost everything. And I said, hey, we messed up, we bought big trucks and I bought big trucks, and you had your nails done and your hair done every month or week or whatever you do. And we were just blowing money. And I said, is this how we want to live again or not? And you said, no. And I said, then let's us change our habits. Let's us, make the commitment. And I actually asked you, I said, what are your life goals? And you're like, I don't know. No, I don't really have any, I want to have kids. And you were pregnant at the time. And I said, well, I want to travel the world. And I think you kind of laughed, because at the time we were $500,000 in debt, lost our house, all of our vehicles. I mean, just not even at
7
zero.
months pregnant with our first baby.
Yeah, not even at zero, like so
Oh, yeah,
far
so
down in
far
the hole
negative.
that, we couldn't even see light. But you still have to dream. You still have to dream, you still have to believe in your abilities and your skills. And at that time I really didn't, but I just knew that with time and effort, maybe it would work out. And you said, that sounds good, travel the world and not work. Yeah, I'm on board. And and so I went to work, and you didn't get your nails done. Even now, you don't get your nails done. What? How long has that been? Like
Castle's 12.
12 years later, you get your hair done every what?
Once a year.
Once a year? It
Ask
used to be
Cammy.
every couple months or something,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah,
You know
when
what I
we were
mean?
dating, I used to go have my hair done on a Friday night for dates for the weekend. Like,
Yeah.
not like done, but have her just style it. I mean, I
Yeah.
would live
And
totally differently.
and so we're different people, we could
Yeah.
go, I always wanted a Lamborghini. That was a kind of a bucket list for me, and just something that says, hey, I made it, and we could go pay cash for one, right? And I don't want that. I don't need that. I would rather be here in Amboise, France with my family than, in a Lamborghini. So your values and your goals change.
That's actually a perfect place for me to kind of jump in here, because I was talking to one of my good friends and saying how she was really kind of down on herself that she had gotten off track and not been staying with the tools of the sisterhood and what we talk about of this same thing, this like figuring out what your values are, figuring out what your goals are, write the goals down, then start working towards them. And we'd been talking about, I said, oh, when I get home, I am going to clean out my closet. Like, I just feel like it needs to happen. I have so much, when you go on the road like this, like we do, it's happened every time we've done this. I think I have packed, even this small amount that I've packed, I've only worn 3 pairs of the shorts, 1 of the swimsuits,
Me
and
too.
2 of the shirts. You guys, like, we've been out for 3 months now, and we've just rotated the same outfits.
You have laundry machines.
Yeah, I wash everything, and I don't care what the pictures look like. I don't care. I used to care. That I've changed. My values have changed. What I worry about has changed. My goals. And it's exactly that same concept with setting goals as changing out your closet. And so she had gone and changed out her closet. Same thing. So I had given her this idea, and she's like, oh, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go through and gut my closet. And she said, I have this huge pile of stuff that's so nice, but I just cannot even see myself wearing it ever again or anymore. And I said, because that's not the Kelly you are now. That is who you were. So you were on this path, living this life, and that's fine. We all do that. Before we lost everything, we were on this path, living this life. We had different goals. And then everything happened, and then we were on this path. We had different goals. I used to dress up a lot more, but now when I dress up, I feel so uncomfortable because I've got a 2-year-old that I'd rather carry. I'd rather love on and hug and play with and get down and run around with, and that doesn't work with some of the clothes that I would wear.
Hey, you're wearing a $200 shirt, and your little boy wants to climb on you, and then you yell at him because he got ice cream on you, and it's like, this isn't good for anybody.
No, it's not good for anybody. So I said that you're not wrong. You're not bad. If your goals change, you're just on a new path, and that's okay. Stop looking at things like the road you're on is the only road you can be on. It's like, no, this is the wrong road. Okay, well, let's go to this other road and try this road.
All roads. Very rarely does a road go where you think it's going to go in the time amount you think it's going to go.
In the last year, I could never have even conceived the thoughts that my head would be having of where I want this company to go, of where I want my family to go, of what's next for me, because my brain couldn't even have conceived the things that I'm doing now.
You're a different person, yeah.
I'm a different person. Anyway, so yes.
Yeah, I think getting back to, so you asked, how do you, as a couple, right? As a couple, how do you have these conversations about life goals?
Yeah, let's start with how do you have these conversations? So you said, come to you and say, ask a question, be inquisitive.
Yeah,
don't just say, we're doing this.
Yeah, and say, hey, listen, I haven't, for me to come and attack you, I'm like, hey, you're getting your hair done and your nails done, you're bad with money. And then it's like, well, I run over here and buy $1,000 bow or go on $1,000 elk hunt. It's hard for men because most of us make the money.
Yeah, if you are the
breadwinner. It's hard because you just think of it as yours, naturally, which is wrong, right? That's the biggest fight in marriage.
I'm going to tell you guys, we have been having this like very deep conversation about this exact topic because it hits home, really, really hits home for us. And for some reason, it's hitting home or coming to light with a lot of the people that I'm having conversations with right now. And so this is actually a topic that we've been discussing a lot lately, and it's gotten pretty heated because of what he's saying. There are like your family of origin. How were you raised around money? How did your parents deal with money? What was exampled to you? Right? The same kinds of things.
Yeah. Well, and most goals, most goals cost money.
Oh my gosh.
You just think about it, you break it down and it's
unless
like,
you're good enough to go out
I want to lose even that though, you look at it and it's like, okay, I want to lose 40 pounds. It's like, okay, well, how are you going to do it? The gym, that's a gym membership.
Eat better.
Babysitter to watch the baby while you're at the gym. You got to buy more expensive food to eat better or better food. Even if you said run down the road, you got to have time.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have time. So you need a babysitter, or you can't work, or you're running late at night. So most goals cost money, and that's hard for men. Me, I shouldn't say men. It's hard for me. I'll just say me. To differentiate. To where, like you said, our conversation, we can get into that a little bit. We've been talking about going home, and she's been talking to me about some of the struggles that her women are having. And again, she doesn't name names.
Worth.
Yeah, she's very private, but she just says, hey, I have this girl. She protects their identity, but she just says this girl or that girl's going through this. And I says, I think all marriages are. I could name you 4 of my buddies that are going through this same thing, and it's a statistic, right? Most marriages end in divorce because of money. And so that's the hard part, is when you're setting goals. A woman, again, I'm what's the word where you like generalizing. So, bear with me. But, when a woman goes to a man and says, my house, the house we live in is small. It's small for our family. It's a really small house compared to standards these days. And you'll just say, hey, Rick, I'd like a bigger house, someday.
Mm-hmm.
And me as the man hears, you're not giving me what I want.
Yeah, you're not
providing me well enough. And I want more. Yeah, bells. And so I get defensive, right? And you're like, whoa, I was just saying a bigger house someday would be nice. And I'm like, I know, but I'm trying to, you're in France right now. You've been traveling for the last 6 years. I've taken you to 60 countries. I feed you all the good foods and wines. Why am I not enough?
Yeah, why is it not enough?
And again, we have had a lot of time talking about this, where you don't mean that necessarily. And I don't think that necessarily, but when you fight, obviously the teeth come out, and you think and say things.
And when your own insecurities come out,
you're right, for sure.
Get defensive.
Yeah. And so I told you, I think it's 90% how you say it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, I want a bigger house, it's like, hey, do you think our house is big enough? Do you think it's the right size for us to go back and have another child? And it's like, oh, I don't know, it's going to be a little tight. Maybe let me come to the realization without you putting it on me,
Yeah.
The other thing too is, what we were talking about, we're lucky enough to where we have a little bit of extra money to where we can solve some of these problems. I just have to lighten up. I have several buddies that make good money. And I was telling you this, my goals, that I have, because I'm a very goal-oriented person, and that, and I plan so far out. Some of them are big and cost a lot of money, and, are going to be hard to achieve. And so when you come in with one of your goals, I feel like it's taking away from my goal.
Yeah,
and our goal.
It does. It disrupts.
And so then I look at it and I'm like, holy cow. And this is what happened a couple days ago when we were talking. I'm like, I'm trying to get 10 years ahead to buy, a game ranch in Texas that's going to be millions of dollars. And you're like, well, Rick, I'd like my, hair done twice a year. And I'm like, well, that's not important. No, it wasn't. I don't even know what you said. But
I'd like a car that the door locks
but
go up.
not millions of dollars, not millions of dollars. But then our marriage, we have fights because, or spending money, you're like,
Yeah.
I'd like some more spending money,
Right.
and I'm like, okay, well, if what I want in life is a happy wife that will give me a little bit of freedom, let me go with my boys, let me go hunting, and, give me some loving, right? What would that entail? And it's probably, helping you achieve some of your goals, which cost a little bit of money. And so I think we've come up with some good ideas on how to achieve that and what's going to work for us. And so you just kind of have to sit down and have these conversations. And I'm not good with communication. You know that. I shut down, and I'm getting better because of your sisterhood and your movement and you reading these books and you saying, hey, when we used to get in a fight, I felt like you would say, you'd just yell, or we'd get yelling. And now when we get in a fight, when we get in a fight, you're like, well, this girl that I interviewed said this, or this book I read said this. And I'm like, well, shit, those are facts. Those are not emotion. It's not screaming. And so even though I'll still be mad in the moment, when I leave, I come back and I'm like, hey, what you said made sense. I had to swallow my pride and go around the block. But communication, I think communication obviously is the base point. And a lot of husbands are very, goals, short-term and long-term are hard, long-term especially because it's usually a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you get a wife that comes up and says, honey, I want to retire in a couple of years. It's like, oh man, that's putting a lot of pressure on me. Or I want to buy a new car in 6 months. Oh man, that's hard. Or, I want some more spending money, short-term, whatever. So I think the way you approach it is huge. Don't approach it right when they get home from work and they're stressed out. The timing, if I show up and try to tell you that I want to go on a hunting trip 4 hunting trips next year, and you're got a baby on your hip and doing
in the middle of chaos,
that's not the right time to talk about goals. You need to go out on a date or sit at home, have a glass of wine or something that relaxes you.
Get the kids settled, go in the back, have a little date night.
Yeah, probably save that till after. Dangle the carrot for the guy on that, honestly, like, hey, let's have a good conversation and, maybe it'll work out for you. After we're kind of like, I want to go to bed.
Make me happy, I'll make you happy.
Yeah, really though, it's like, you do it after, we'll probably be asleep. So, timing's important. And then, being realistic, doing the math, running the numbers, making sure it's something you guys can achieve. There's nothing worse than setting goals and just not even getting close. Obviously, we know that from weight loss. You say, I'm going to lose 100 pounds in a week. You're just going to be frustrated.
Yeah.
So obtainable goals that go off math. What's your age? What's your calorie intake? You can do the math and say, hey, this is probably realistic. And that will help a lot.
I want to go back to what we do. We've worked on this. It's a tool in the sisterhood that we do that is called a board meeting with your spouse. One of our ladies brought this to us and she named it. She calls it a board meeting. And I have my own views about it, but date night for us, it's coming together at a time where you're both level, right? Just like you said, you don't come into the house when it's like, ah, like with my kids, even when we come home from school, I have a thing called relaxation station. Everybody goes to their own place. They get 30 minutes to just decompress. Just the day has been wound up. They've been at school. They've been this, they've been that. I've been doing whatever, running around, and everybody gets to go to their relaxation stations. That's what dad should get to have too when he comes home from work, because we don't know what his day has been like, or mom, if mom's coming home from work, right? Everybody needs a minute to take their work hat off and put their dad hat on, take their mom hat off and put their wife hat on, right? Everybody needs a minute to find that.
And it might not be a minute, it might be a week. That's one big thing is,
don't expect others to decompress in your timeline.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm, there's been times where you've been in a rut for a few days, or I've been in a rut for a week, or a month, and to come to me and try to plan our lives when I'm in a funk, that's not just a bad day at work, or something greater. probably not a good time to go into life goals and things like that. It's probably time to say, what do you need today? Men are pretty basic, and I think even women, it's like if they're in a bad mood, something's not being met.
Mm-hmm.
Usually with a guy, it's sexual.
Yeah.
Right? 9 out of 10 times it's probably sexual, really. And with a woman, it's probably, giving them some attention, just, listening to them. Money, I really think is a big one for a lot of women. Making sure that they, feel like they are, it's hard for men because a stay-at-home mom, we feel like, is just part of the gig,
Yeah,
and
the
then
value. They're feeling undervalued.
and then they can't go, you can't go to Vegas with your girlfriends because you have no money because it doesn't fit into our lifelong goals. And then you're mad, and then you don't want to give me loving, and then it spirals and spirals and spirals, and it's like, oh my gosh, let's do the math, see what we can afford, whether it's $50 a week or $100 a week or $1,000 a week, whatever we feel like is realistic for us to give. And the same with the woman, it's like,
right.
If you're not in the mood, get in the mood, kind of figure it out, because it'll
treat others as you would want to be treated.
Well, and it's important for them. I remember you telling me something a few months ago where you said you were talking to somebody and they said that for a man, sex for a man is like an elk needing water. And I've thought a lot about that,
that was Seth. Seth and Melanie
was
brought
it?
that. Yeah. It was perfect. It was perfect analogy. It's like you're shaming something that's in their nature.
Yeah.
It's like saying you see an elk out in the wilderness and they're trying to get water and shaming that elk for wanting water. It's like.
And one of the funny things about us is we were opposite, right? Yeah. We were opposite for the first.
I think we've gone like this.
Yeah, but in the very beginning, it was really bad.
Yeah.
I didn't have a sex drive, and so that for years, right? And I had to get on medication, and I was trying to, and now going back to the other side of it, it's been very, very good for me because it's like, wow.
Now I know how she felt.
Now, and you know how I felt. Mm-hmm. And I think that's very important. If you took a man who's working a job and has the money, access to the money, and you took that away from him for a year.
Right.
And he had to go ask for it.
That's
or
a good,
beg
that's
for
a good
it,
point.
or, have sex for it, whatever your marriage is. It's like, that would suck. That's
what I think a lot of women, it's what my friend say. She said, well, where's my cut?
Right.
It's like we made an agreement as a couple that you would be the breadwinner. We made an agreement, because if you didn't make that agreement when you first got married, maybe that wife went on to go to school and go to nursing school and make her own money. Right. Maybe she went on to be a lawyer, maybe whatever. But you made an agreement together, and we did. I said, I want to stay at home with my kids. Like, I have no problem working. I've always had a job since I was 14. I love it. Mm-hmm. But once that started to affect our kids, I was pregnant with Hayes, and I quit my job, and he figured out a way for me to be able to work, provide for our family, still help with that, and be a stay-at-home mom. So that was what we agreed on. But a lot of marriages, you get married, you agree this wife is going to take care of the family and do the things. The husband's going to provide. And then they come home and it's like, well, why'd you spend this money? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? And after 15 years of feeling like it's like that lady said to me on that comment, you're slave labor. It's like after resentment builds, you're in a world of hurt. And really the simplest thing under the thing is just this woman feels like she has nothing of her own. So money solves that. It does. It sounds crass, but it's really not.
Real.
It's real. It's like you're getting paid.
And it's real for us. If it's not real for you, great. Like tell us how you did it.
Oh, I have some wives that they are the breadwinners and their husbands can't even fathom
And he probably feels the same way.
And maybe he feels the same way. Maybe he feels like he has to ask. Maybe she is.
Yeah.
Lucky duck. She's making the money. And
I think it's hard because, like I said, I'm going to say for me, I have these plans, I have these goals. And when you come to me and say, I want to go to Vegas this weekend, I think this doesn't fit into that.
Yeah.
And I think it's not important. Just don't do it. Let's save the money. Let's put it over here, and it will allow us to do this.
You're missing me saying this is a need.
that, and we don't have the conversation of, like we talked about, we want to buy another home, a second home. And I said, because you want a bigger one, right? We're renting now, and you want our own home that's not our cabin. And I said, well, we can give you some money, but it's going to take away from this, which will delay that. Right. And you're like, I'm fine with that.
It's like a game of setting goals with a spouse, a partner, is like playing a game of would you rather.
Yeah,
it's a perfect example.
100%.
Would you rather
I get mad at you all the time because
would you rather this?
Again, when we're fighting, I say, well, would you rather have a big house or travel the world? And you're like, travel the world.
Yeah.
And so, that's what we're doing. But when we get in fights and the way you come at me, it feels like maybe you'd want the bigger house and not travel the world. And then when we communicate and we're calm and relaxed, you're like, Rick, I'm happy. I'm good.
Yeah.
But, and I think the other thing too, is to make sure there's got to be trust there, because your husband, if he's out there working and he's trading his time for money, you just think about that. I think that's huge to us. I know,
I've actually brought that to them before.
It's huge. That. Yeah, it's huge. It's like this watch, took 6 hours of Rick's life.
Which I know he would rather be at home with his kids and with his wife. But because back when you were working 80 plus hours a week, you would call me sometimes really upset, saying I'm missing their childhood. And they were at the time, they were 3 and a baby. And I'm like, you're not missing anything. Nobody even knows. But
you're missing their first walks. You're missing their first words.
It's true. You are missing
those
something,
chapters.
So you feel it.
Yeah, they don't know that I'm missing it, but I know.
But
this was that I hate you a lot.
Oh, okay.
So, but I think that's something that us, that I keep saying us, that I struggle with.
You don't speak for all mankind.
No, is. Trusting your wife that when you say, listen, honey, I'm going to give you $500 a month to just go blow on you and spend on
save.
You. Or you hope. That's what I'm saying though. There's some wives who will go blow it in a week and then be like, this isn't enough.
Yeah.
And then there's some wives who will want more. They'll say, I need $1,000 a month. And the husband feels like, oh man, I've opened this gate. So you got to have that trust in that spouse and show them. I really think it comes down to the math and communication of, listen, honey, I can't give you $1,000. I make $5,000 a month. Our bills are $4,000. I can give you $250. It's better than nothing, but let's try to get in a good situation. Or I can keep that $250, and in 2 years we could save up $10,000 and we could buy a rental property or start a side business.
Right.
And then that in 3 years, I remember going to you saying, in 10 years, if you trust me, in 10 years, we're going to travel the world. And you're like, okay, I trust you. And I went to work and we lived off top ramen and you didn't get your nails done and all our story. And it took us 7 years. And I remember going to you saying, babe, we did it. We can book our tickets to France, one-way ticket.
Yeah.
And that was the most beautiful thing in the world. But you had to trust. And I fought with this. I've actually struggled with this because I come from a family, and my greatest mentor, Roy Benson, who was frugal till the end. He died he couldn't spend money he had heart problems at 82 years old and still couldn't spend money. And I struggled with that. Like, once you start saving money and you pay off debt and you don't spend any money, it starts becoming addictive, which sounds weird. But it happened to me. And then I'm like, oh man, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to go travel. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to spend this money. And then I'm like, no, we made an agreement. She has killed herself to support me and to clean condos and manage condos for 5 years. I have to do this. But it was hard. We're spending $12,000 a month right now traveling, not even our stuff at home. We didn't sell our stuff. We're out here spending $12,000 a month on the road just in travel. That is hard for me. I'm a very frugal person. You ask my buddies, I'm missing a hunt right now. My camo, altogether is $100. They're wearing like $5,000 camo gear, and my bow's 15 years old. So this is that's not natural for me, but we made a decision and you have given up stuff in your life that we're going to do this. So have those conversations with your spouse of, what do we want? what is the math? How does the math add up to what we want? What's the time? Everything can be earned. It just might not be a 1-year goal. It's a 2-year goal. So do the math and then make sure you guys trust each other to know that if I give Gina $500 a month, she isn't just going to blow it on lattes, because she got it now. I know she won't. I know that the fundamentals are there. I know that her goals are aligned with mine. I actually asked her, I was thinking, this is personal, but I was thinking $1,000 a month is what I would give her to just spend on her. And she says 500 would be great. And that's great. That's good for a man to hear. It's like, wow, okay, she's not being greedy. She's not trying to take everything she can, because I told her if I give her 1,000, it might delay buying a bigger home 6 months or 12 months.
A game of would you rather.
And that's where it all comes back. So everything in life, you have to usually give up something to get something. So these goals, you're going to have these conversations. What are we willing to sacrifice now to get later? And if you're like, hey, you know what? I don't need to travel the world. I want my Starbucks every day. And that makes you happy, and that makes you a better wife or a better husband or a better father or a better provider or a better mother, then do that.
Which gets back to the foundation of what are your values? What are your priorities? What do you both need? You know what you need in your life. What do you both need? Do I need a massage once a week?
If that's going to make you if that's going to make you yell at your kids less, then fight for that.
It's like we talk about, I have this member that said they sat down and she works. She's a working mom, and she's got a bunch of little kids, and they sat down and started talking about where they needed to tighten up. And the concept of her home cleaner not coming anymore brought her to tears. It was such an emotional thing. So it obviously takes so much off her plate that she can give that time to her kids instead of cleaning her house, that it caused her to be so upset. And I love the husband's response was, we're not getting rid of the cleaners.
That's
obviously.
awesome.
Yeah. He was like, I see that this is a big deal to you.
Big picture.
Then we need to keep this on and cut somewhere else.
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, the coffees, I don't care. Take my coffees. I'll make my own coffee on the stove every day. But if you take away this house cleaner, that really hit home. And I says, wow, that was kudos to him. What an amazing man to see that the reaction that caused. So that's what it is sitting down together just like that and saying, where do we want to be? How are we going to bridge the gap to that? What are you going to do? What am I going to do?
I think that's the biggest thing. That's why I think setting goals for a lot of people is scary or
Well, and I think a lot of people don't know how to communicate it. I know a lot of wives want to know how to approach their husbands. And I will tell you that up until someone actually told me about a codependent relationship, I would have been like, I'm not codependent. Like, I'm very independent. I'm very independent. But some of the things she was saying, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I don't go to him and say something because I don't want to rock the boat. It'll cause a fight. It'll cause an argument. So I'm just not going to say it. I'm not going to. But then it bubbles up and bubbles up and bubbles up until it just explodes one day. And then we're worse because I'm yelling out, spewing out every bad thing that I think he's done instead of the one thing. All I needed to say was, hey, this kind of bothers me. The clutter in our house is something that gives me anxiety, and I'd like to work on that, instead of just not talking to him about it. So we have being together 24/7 for the last 3 months. I do believe, and I trust him enough to know that he's not going anywhere. Like, we're in this, that we've had some, I don't know, you guys.
Might go around the block.
We might be divorced in here. Who knows? We're going to listen to these. So we should go back and listen to our first one we recorded together. But I trust that he has my back, really. And where was I going with that? But so it has made me finally come to saying, this is bothering me. I don't like this. Yeah. And I think I asked it the other day. I said, I don't feel like I'm 100% myself with you. Yeah. And you're like, what are you holding back?
Yeah, you're pretty out there. I think we all do that.
But that's what I mean. I mean, if you.
And I said, I wasn't that way with you.
Yeah,
and you're
like, I'm like, what?
What?
I'm like, what are you holding back?
But I think that's natural. And, what I would say too is, when you're making goals and you're talking to your spouse, you know, cut them some slack, you know, within reason, right? If they're doing something
if you're
fundamentally
not here
wrong,
to attack,
then there's a major issue and you need to address that. And you should be making goals with somebody when there's a fundamental problem in your marriage. You need to address that first.
Yeah, go to therapy, address that
problem. You can't build a house on
first.
sand, you know, so you need to get your house in order best you can. But the other thing too is, you know, I think a lot of times we nitpick people, you know, that are closest to us. We're hardest on the people that are closest to us, unfortunately, where I am 100% guilty of that. And, you know, we were in Barcelona talking to a girl, and she's in the dating scene, you know. And
Yeah,
you've been married 17 years, you know, you're like, oh, what's the dating scene like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Is that fun? And she's like, it's horrible. And I'm like, really? You know, you're cute girl, what's up? And she's like, 9 out of 10 people on these apps are crazy or weird or and so, you know, for me, I went back and I'm like, man, I'm lucky, you know, like I'm a lucky guy that I got a girl that does 95% of what I would want in a spouse, you know, and that other 5%, it's like, yeah, we can work on it and talk about it. But honestly, if she is what she is now, I'm happy and I don't think I could do better. And so I think that's a big key with, you know, setting goals and things like that is make sure that the, you know, you go into that conversation of, hey, they're not perfect. Neither are you.
Yeah.
And, you know, what is realistic? What can you guys do together? And just try to toe the line in the same direction best you can, you know. I think what happens, and I tell Gina this a lot of times, you know, I think the biggest cause of divorce is you marry someone and you're with them and it's just, you know, the same person over and over, right? It's just redundant and you get bored and then you run into some hard times and you bail. And I think if you can I always say not restart. What's the word?
Reset. If we can reset. Yeah.
You know, I think if you can reset and go back to that, then, and that's the hard part. It's not easy. It's not easy to just, you know, remember your first date or act like it's your first date or the first time you kissed them. But that's one thing that I would just say is when you're out there setting goals, you know, listen to your spouse, really listen to them too, because, you know, you may, as a man, I may say my goal, and I do this a lot to you, and I know, is I'll say, I want to build a second cabin on our property, this big goal. And you'll be like, I want, you know, some Lululemon pants. Is that how you say it?
Yes.
And
it's true.
Is it lemon? Lululemon?
Yeah. Well, it's true.
And I'm
it's funny because it's true because that's usually how men spend the money too. It's like I go out and buy myself a pair of shoes or something that's like $40.
Yeah.
And the man goes out and buys
a new truck.
Gun.
Yeah.
It's like, that was $1,200. Yeah. That's not the same.
And so but it is. It's not the same, but I'm saying it is in the feeling, you know, that's the,
yeah.
I remember my dad always telling me that he'd be working on this, you know, big job in Vegas, stressed out, trying to pay the bills with his first business. And he's like, I can't make payroll. He's kiting checks, which is illegal. And just trying to figure out how to keep the lights on, literally.
Yeah, take from Peter to pay Paul.
And my little sister would walk in. Oh.
Uh-oh.
And, okay. Need a drink of water.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you and your mom both, and I'm never prepared for either of you.
And she had her little doll, and he's like, and she's crying because,
oh, I see.
You know,
yeah, puts it in perspective.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Her problem is her problem, and it's huge to her.
Yeah,
and his problem, and it's like saying, oh, I wish that was my problem.
Yeah.
I wish that was my problem to only have to worry about that. But to her, it's huge.
Yeah, she doesn't know what he's going through.
Yeah.
You know, and I do as a father. Mm-hmm. And that's why I get emotional. That's the sign I get emotional because I was there, sorry, trying to pay the bills. And I never want to get there again.
Right. The weight of the world on you. I've talked to them about that too, the reason that, you know, you just don't know. Like men don't know what we're going through. Ladies,
yeah, and so
we don't know what we're going through.
they're trying to keep the wheels on the thing. And then the wife comes with their goals and we get defensive or we get angry and they don't know what that husband's doing, trying to put food on the table and, but your problem, your little doll is as big a problem as his and he needs to understand that. And so I just cut people slack. That was the end of it. Is just know that neither one's perfect, but both are important.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry about that. Got a little emotional there, but when you lose everything and
I'll make it worse if I touch you. I'm sorry. You did good, babe.
Yeah.
You did good.
So
we did good.
Yep, we did.
Thanks for recording with me, babe. Do you want to do this again? Real quick?
See you in a year. See you in a year. Yeah.
Oh.
Wish everybody the best. And like I said, my wife's trying to change lives and is, and I hope more people will join up and do the work. That's the thing, is goals are only as valuable as the effort you put into them. I can write a million things on a sheet of paper, but you got to dig down
you can
deep.
Listen to a million podcasts. You can read a million books.
Yeah.
You can go to the gym a million times, but until you actually do the work and put it into action, make actionable steps towards a goal.
Yeah.
Like listening to a podcast is like this. What's the point of it?
Yeah.
It's good information.
Yeah.
I love them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great. It's great to have information. But until you actually put your, pavement meets the tires meet the pavement.
Yeah. Rubber meets the road.
Rubber meets the road. It's not going to end up anywhere. You're just going to go like this.
Yeah.
And just keep consuming.
There's millions of patents in the patent office that are just sitting there. There's millions of businesses and people's idea. I have friends call me all the time. I want to start a business. What do I do? Start.
Yeah.
How? Start. I didn't know how. Read a book, get on YouTube, figure it out. But people are where they are because of effort, not 99%, not because of any kind of luck or anything like that. And so if we can do it, you can do it 100%. And you have a good tool right here with my wife's community and Ryan's community that, it's a lot easier when you have a coach or a mentor or a sister or a brother. 100%, they've proven that trying to go to the gym alone, if you have a person that you're supposed to meet there, you're like 80% more likely to meet.
I just said that in my last Friday episode.
Yeah, so it's like, sign up to these communities, tell them your goals, tell people your goals. That's another good thing I would say is once you guys get your goals established and figure out what they're going to be, tell them to the world, because that puts pressure on you to achieve them. When I told people, I went and told my dad I'm going to travel the world in, 10 years, and he laughed. I couldn't afford to go I couldn't afford to go to the city park. And he laughed, and I says, you watch, you wait and see. And I was out there to prove people wrong. And the more you get a little bit further down the road and you buy your first rental property or start your first business and start making a little money, and you can start seeing the light a little bit, start believing your own hype. And there's going to be haters. There's going to be people who just think you're crazy, 100% crazy. They're going to judge you, but that just means you're doing something right. If you're lost in the fold and nobody is looking at you, then you're not making enough waves. So dream big, be realistic, but also, dream big, shoot for the stars, and then put in the effort. And that's what I love about life. Anything is possible. I believe anything is possible.
And when you're doing it with the person you love, the person that you want to do life with, you've got a constant cheering section.
100%.
Sometimes a constant voice in your head, but for the most part, cheering section.
And I would also encourage people. I know this is a cliche or whatnot, but we all say money buys happiness. It doesn't. It solves problems. It helps. It does buy some types of happiness, but just be careful chasing money. I would encourage you to. A lot of things in life are free. You can go camping. You can go do some stuff. Spending more time with your kids is a great goal.
Yeah. What's your values?
A date night once a week is a great goal. It doesn't have to be a Ferrari. It doesn't have to be travel the world. It can be a better dad. I look at somebody who's a great dad who coaches his son's football team, and, I think he's a lot more cool than the guy who shows up that's,
Show up.
that has a Lamborghini that's a piece of shit. So, make sure your goals are what you want and what you want to achieve, and good luck. Wish you the best.
We're starting to lose our light. On that note, we're starting to lose our light.
Yep, it's getting dark.
All right, ladies, thanks for tuning in to another episode. I hope you got something from this, some amazing words of wisdom from the entrepreneur himself, the serial entrepreneur himself.
Yeah, we're coming back in January, and we got big plans.
Oh, yeah.
You should see our goal sheet.
Yeah, our goals. We've been talking a lot about this, and we're not talking about them yet, but man. Oof.
Yeah, we're not ready to announce them, but we've been literally everything, Gina, and I think this is why we're probably talking about it, is this has been something we've been working on for the last month, and they are night and day from what we thought they were going to be.
They are.
2 months ago.
Like when you asked me, it was funny when you just said, would you rather have a big house or travel the world? And I still don't want a big house. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to clean that. But my what would you rathers have changed.
Yeah, we've traveled the world.
And they
honestly, you know what I mean? It's like, would you rather have
traveling the world?
When I bought that motorcycle, that big dog, it's like, would you rather have a big dog or travel the world? It's like, well, I've had a motorcycle.
That's true.
So that chapter's closing. But it is because and now your new goals.
New
goals. Your goals have to be updated, in business, in life.
So I said, if you're on the wrong road, get off that road and go to a new road. It's not a big deal. Everybody makes it out like it's such a big deal. Like, I'm going to be so embarrassed if I change direction. Oh my gosh, the perfect example is this girl that I'm trying to get her on. She's going to come on. She's said she'd record. But anyway, I've watched her journey for the past 5 years, I think. And she was doing this first. And then all of a sudden I see her and she's doing this. Like first she's selling saint makeup. And then she's doing clothes and fashion and doing this. And then she's doing that. And I'm like, holy cow, this girl's doing all these different things, but she's doing it. And she's finding what she likes the most in each of those things and turning it. And now she's got a podcast. And now I'm like, girl, my head's spinning, but she's amazing and I'm going to have her on. But that's a perfect example of who cares?
Yeah,
like, try it out. If you don't like it, there's one life. Live it.
That's why there's, 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. It's like,
we're losing our light.
There's 31 flavors at 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins. It's because we all have a different flavor. Go find your flavor, and what... See what I put up with.
Go find your flavor.
Yeah, of ice cream, Gina. Of ice cream.
Okay, it's time to stop.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, we could gab forever. Okay.
All right, ladies, send this to someone who needs to hear this and tag me on your socials so I can make sure to say thank you personally. And thank you so much for joining. Thanks for recording, babe.
You're welcome.
Want to give me a kiss?
Sure.
I was really just put the cherry on top of embarrassing this guy today. Thanks, ladies. We'll see you next week.